Everything that you see in the terminal either came from an output stream or an input stream. In Bash, you can redirect and or chain together that output using the redirection operator and the pipeline. One of the streams that commands write to is the standard output, and that's the information that you see to the screen. So if I type ls-l, this is the output being shown to the terminal screen. Now you can take that stream and you can redirect it with the redirection operator. So if I wanted to redirect this ls command's output into a file, I would use the greater than sign, and then I would provide a file name. So it would be output.txt. And now if I cat this file, output.txt, I'll see the same results as above plus the output.txt that was created when I redirected the output. Now, if I issue this again, but create a new file, so if I type touch part3.txt to create another file, and I redirect that output back to the output.txt, and we take a look at the contents, you'll notice that it overwrote the file. It created a new one and put the new output in there. But what if I wanted to append? So if I clear the screen and create a new file called part4.txt, now I should have the results. What I'm wanting is the results of the output with 3 files and then the output with an additional one. To do that, I will create an additional file, part4, and then I will redirect the output of ls using 2 greater than signs, and that means to append the output to the existing file. So I'll type output.txt there again, and now when I take a look at the contents, and now what I see is the output that was captured the first time, which had just the 3 parts, and then the output.txt, and now additionally the appended output that had the 4 parts. So the part4.txt was added to this output. And so that's how you can append output to a file instead of overriding it with the redirection operator. Standard output is only one of the streams that is presented to the terminal. Another one of those streams is the standard error. And to see a standard error would be like any error that you return. So if I wanted to do an ls-l on a directory that didn't exist, so if I just do the current working directory and then dir, I'm going to get an error that says this file or directory does not exist. And that is a standard error, and you can also redirect those. To redirect standard errors, you have to add the file descriptor in front of the redirection operator. So ls-l/dir, to see that same error, I need to add a 2 in front of this with the greater than sign. Now the 2 is the file descriptor that indicates the standard error, and so it's saying redirect standard error to this particular location, and I can put error.txt, and now when I cat error.txt, I will see that error that came in from standard error redirected now to that text file. Now if I did the same thing and I didn't do the file operator or the file descriptor, I would just get that error returned back to the terminal because I'm not redirecting the standard error. I'm trying to redirect standard output. They're different streams, and so it's not going to direct it to the error directory. So again, that 2 is called a file descriptor, and that needs to be put in front of that. Otherwise, it's just going to return to the terminal. Now you can also redirect standard error and standard out at the same time. To redirect the standard out and the standard error to the same file, the syntax looks a little bit different. So if we did ls-l and then we do that same directory that doesn't exist here, we would use the redirection operator, which is a greater than sign, and then followed by the file that we want to direct to. So we'll just put it to errors.txt. And then after that, we have to put the streams or the file descriptors. So it'd be 2 greater than sign and 1. So we're saying stream 1 and stream 2 redirect to these files. So if we cat the errors now, we should see that we overwrote that and we got the error. But now if we do this same command, but we ls just the directory, which should have some output, we can append if we use the 2 greater than signs there. So if we cat the errors again, we should see the error and that. And that's a way that you can redirect both the standard in or the standard output and the standard errors to the same file, is by using this syntax here with the file descriptors 1 and 2. Now there is another way that you can accomplish the same thing with a little less syntax that newer versions of Bash supports. So if I were to do ls-l and I were to put the @ sign and then the greater than sign, this does the same thing as the 2 greater sign @1, where I'm redirecting the standard out and standard error to the same place. And so if I were to put this to maybe output 2.txt, then I would be able to redirect both of those streams to that file with a little less syntax. Again, this is the exact same thing as doing this. So these 2 commands are the same as long as we are outputting to the same directory and not using the appends. So those 2 operate exactly the same. So the last stream to mention is redirecting the standard input. To redirect the standard input, you use the same redirectional operator, the greater than sign, as you did with the output, but you're taking input from a command versus output of a command. So the cat file will concatenate different files together. And if we take a look at the directory, there are a number of files in here. Several of them start with part. And if I use cat to take a look at part 1, there is some lorem ipsum text in there, and there is also some lorem ipsum text in part 2. Together, these make a paragraph. So they have a number of sentences in them, but combined, they would make a single paragraph of lorem ipsum. And I want to combine or concatenate those 2 together into a new file called paragraph. So if I use the cat command on part 1 and part 2, I can now redirect this output and concatenate it together to paragraph.txt. And if I cat the paragraph.txt, I now have them combined into a single file, and I was able to redirect that input into the paragraph.txt using that redirection operator again. Now, sometimes you don't want to output those different streams to a file and redirect them to a file on disk. You want to just push that input to or output to a different command. And to do that, you use the pipeline. And that is just the pipe symbol at the command line. That is what chains together different commands. And a good example of that would be to take a look at the bin directory, which is notoriously long. So under USR bin, there is a lot of files. And instead of scrolling through this, maybe we want to parse it a little bit. And to do that, we can actually pipe the output of that command to the less command. And now we can go through it by hitting the space bar and then quitting to get out of it. But that's how we can take the output of the ls command and pipe it to less to get the functionality of less. Another example, and probably the most frequently way that the pipeline is used, is with the grep command. So if we were to take a look at that bin directory again and pipe that to the grep command and then search for echo, we would get 2 results back. So inside the bin directory, there is a file called echo and less echo, and both of those return. And again, just to reiterate, it's taking the output from the ls command and it's passing it along the pipeline to the echo command. Now you could further pipe this to another command like sort to sort that, where we'd have less up above the less echo up above echo, because now we're sorting that. And you'll notice that we also lost the highlighting because grep isn't the command returning that output, it's sort now. But you can see this is how you use the pipeline to take output from one thing and pass it along to different commands. And again, that's all done with the pipeline. The last instance that I'll show you of the pipeline that is useful is using it with the tail and head command. So if I use the cat command to get all of the contents from the part 1 file, but I wanted to only return back the first line, I could use head number 1, and I would only get back the first line number. So I can take the output from the cat command. I don't necessarily need to use the head command and then point it at a file. I can use cat as well. I can do the same thing with the same file if I change this to the tail command, so it'll give me the last sentence, or the last line, not necessarily sentence, but the last line in the file.